The rain poured down on me like ice water. My daughter Emily had just shut her big gate without even looking back. I stood there getting wet while my fancy clothes stuck to my skin. Then I walked to my son Richard's house. He opened his door only a tiny bit and threw $20 at me like I was a beggar. 2 of my kids had said no to helping me. 2 times my heart broke into pieces. But then I went to the last house. The smallest one on the poorest street in town. My youngest son Marcus lived there. Marcus was a librarian who made very little money. Everyone in our family made fun of him for his job. Next to him stood Kelly, his wife. Kelly was the woman I never liked because she came from a poor family and worked at a grocery store. But they did something I never expected. They pulled me inside their tiny apartment like I was the most important person in the world. That night, while I sat on their old chair with broken springs, I heard them talking quietly in their bedroom about selling their wedding rings to buy me food. They had no idea I could hear every word. They had no idea who I really was or what I owned. And when morning came, when my lawyer Patricia showed up at that small apartment with guards and a huge check, the faces of Emily and Richard changed completely. They looked scared because they knew they had made a terrible mistake. Let me tell you how this all started. Let me tell you about the night I decided to test my own children to see if they loved me or just loved my money. Everything began 4 weeks ago in my big office with windows everywhere. My name is Margaret Stone. For 40 years, I built a company that makes furniture sold in every state. When my husband passed away 15 years ago, people thought my business would fall apart. Other business owners waited for me to fail. They were ready to take everything I had built. But I proved them all wrong. I worked day and night. I learned everything about running the company myself. I talked to banks and people who wanted to do business with me. Some of them were mean to me because I was a woman. They thought women could not run big companies. I had to deal with people who said horrible things to me. But I did not give up. I made my company grow bigger and bigger. 5 times bigger than before. And why did I work so hard? For my 3 children. I wanted to give them everything I never had when I was young. I wanted them to never feel hungry like I did as a little girl. I wanted them to have chances to do great things. Emily went to school in France. I paid more than $100,000 for her to study business there. Richard went to law school at a very expensive private college. I gave him almost $200,000 for his education. Marcus, my youngest, chose a regular state college. He wanted to work with books and help people learn to read. His brother and sister laughed at him for many years because of that choice. I gave all my children everything they ever wanted. Big houses, nice cars, trips to faraway places. Every time they called me, they asked for money and I gave it to them. Every time something went wrong in their lives, I fixed it with my checkbook. I became like a machine that just gave out money to my own kids. But one night in March, I sat alone in my quiet office. I looked at papers that showed how much money I had given my children over all the years. Something inside me broke. That same day, I got 3 phone calls from my 3 children. Emily wanted $90,000 to build a swimming pool. Richard needed $60,000 to buy part of a restaurant with his friend. And Marcus, my sweet Marcus, only called to ask if I was feeling okay. That difference hit me like a punch in the stomach. 2 children who only called when they wanted my money. 1 child who called just to check on his mother. Right then I made a choice. I would do a test. The biggest test of their lives. I would pretend to lose all my money. I would dress like a homeless person and go to their houses asking for help. I wanted to see who would let me in. I wanted to see who would feel ashamed of me. I wanted to know if they loved me or just loved what I could buy for them. I asked Patricia, my lawyer who I trusted with everything, to keep my secret. She told me it was dangerous. She said I was too old to sleep on streets. But my mind was made up. I needed to know the truth. I needed to see who my children really were when money was not part of the picture. I took off all my nice jewelry and locked it away. I went to a second-hand store and bought old worn-out clothes. A gray jacket with holes in it that smelled like old basements. Dirty pants with stains. Shoes that were falling apart. I rubbed dirt on my hands and face. I did not wash my hair for 4 days. I put my things in an old ripped shopping bag. When I looked in the mirror, I did not know the woman looking back at me. I looked like someone with no home. I looked like someone people walk past without seeing. I looked exactly like I needed to look for this test to work. My plan was simple but hard. I would walk to each of my children's houses. I would knock on their doors. I would tell them I lost everything and needed a place to sleep. That was all. Nothing more. And I would watch closely. I would watch how they acted, what they said, how they treated me. The truth always comes out when people do not have time to practice their lies. Patricia gave me a cheap phone. She told me to call her if anything bad happened. She said a car would be waiting nearby if I needed it. She promised security guards would watch from far away. But I was not going to call. This had to be real. It had to hurt. It had to be true, because only when something really hurts can you see what people are really like inside. The first night, I left my beautiful apartment at the top of a tall building. I left my soft bed, my warm blankets, my view of the city lights. I went down 23 floors and walked out into the cold street. The winter air felt like it was slapping my face. There was no going back now. I walked for hours and hours. My feet hurt so badly. The shopping bag broke and I had to carry everything in my arms. People on the sidewalk moved away from me. Some people looked at me like they felt sorry for me. Others looked at me like I was garbage. Most people just acted like I was not even there, like I was invisible. I spent that night at the train station. It smelled terrible, like bathrooms and sadness. An old lady shared half of a hard roll with me. She told me she had been living on the streets for 6 years. She said her children had forgotten about her. While she talked, I thought to myself, will that be me someday if I do not do something now? After 3 days I was ready. I was dirty, hungry, and freezing cold, but I was ready. I knew exactly what I was going to do. I would go to Emily's house first, then Richard's house, and last to the small apartment where Marcus and Kelly lived. I did not know what would happen, but I was about to find out. Emily's house looked like a castle sitting in the richest neighborhood in our city. Tall iron gates, perfect grass cut like a carpet, a fountain made of marble in the front yard. I remembered every detail because I had paid the first payment for that house. $200,000 from my own savings when she got married 9 years ago. I stood in front of the gate with a button to press. My legs were shaking. Not just from sleeping on cold benches for 3 nights, but from what I was about to do. Pushed the button. I heard a buzzing sound, then nothing. Pushed it again. Emily's voice came through the speaker. She sounded bored and annoyed. She did not even ask who was there. She just said she was not buying anything. I told her it was me, her mother. There was a long silence. Then I heard a click and the gate opened just a little bit. I pushed it and walked up the stone path I had helped pay for. Every step felt strange and painful. The front door opened before I got there. Emily stood in the doorway, but she did not come outside. She blocked the entrance with her body like I was trying to sell her something she did not want. She wore a pink exercise outfit that probably cost more than most people make in a week. Her hair looked perfect, like she had just come from the hair salon. Her nails were freshly painted. Everything about her screamed money and not caring about others. She looked at me from head to toe with a look I will never forget. It was not worry. It was disgust. She looked at me like I was something dirty. "Mother," she said, saying the word slowly like it hurt her mouth. "What are you doing here at my house?" She did not even ask nicely. She said it like my being there was a problem that needed to be fixed immediately. I told her what I had prepared to say. That I lost everything. That my business went bankrupt and closed. That people I owed money to took my apartment. That I had been sleeping on the streets for 3 days. That I just needed a place to sleep while I figured out what to do next. My own daughter listened without moving even one muscle in her face. When I finished talking, she looked past me toward the other big houses. She was more worried about her neighbors seeing me at her door than about what I had just told her. That look went through my heart like a sharp knife. "Mother, this is not a good time," she said, making her voice quieter. "James has an important dinner with his business partners tonight. I cannot deal with situations like this right now. Situations. She called me, her own mother, a situation. Like I was a leaky pipe or a broken window. Begged her. I hate that I did, but I needed to see how cold she could be. I told her it would only be one night. That I would sleep anywhere. In the maid's room, in the garage, anywhere at all. I just needed a roof over my head. Emily shook her head. Her diamond earrings sparkled when she moved. Those earrings I bought her for her birthday last year. They cost $4,000. $4,000 hanging from the ears of a daughter who had no room in her 7-bedroom house for her own mother. You cannot stay here, she said firmly. This would hurt our reputation at the country club. The neighbors will gossip. You know how people are here. Besides, if you really do not have money anymore, the last thing you need is to be around people who will judge you. It is for your own good, mother. For your own good. She made it sound like she was helping me by closing the door on me. Like she was doing me a favor by rejecting me. I tried to take a step forward. She stepped back and closed the door until only a tiny crack was left. There are shelters, she said. Charity places. I'm sure you can find somewhere to go. And when you fix your situation, when things get better, we can talk. But right now I simply cannot help you. I am sorry. She did not mean it. That was the worst part. Her voice had no real sadness in it. She just wanted to end this uncomfortable conversation and go back to her perfect life of pretending everything was wonderful. Emily, I said, using her full name. Please. I am your mother. I changed your diapers when you were a baby. I taught you how to walk. I paid for your education, your wedding, this house. Everything you have came from me. Her face got hard and cold. Then I saw something that scared me more than any night on the street. I saw anger. Like everything I had ever done for her was a heavy weight she had been carrying. Like my love for her was something she wanted to drop and forget. Exactly, mother, she said with poison in every word. You gave everything. You were always giving, always controlling, always deciding what we should do. Now that you have nothing, you expect me to give everything back like it was some kind of deal. Well, that is not how it works. I have my own life now. My own problems to worry about. I cannot fix your money mistakes. The door closed hard. I heard the lock turn. That sound of metal sliding was like hearing the door to our relationship close forever. I stood there staring at the dark wooden door I had helped buy. Through the side window, I saw Emily walk back into her living room. She picked up her phone and started talking to someone while she laughed. I walked away from that house feeling something worse than sadness. I felt empty inside, like a part of me had been cut out and left on the other side of that closed door. The little girl I raised, the child who hugged me when she had bad dreams, the young woman who cried on my shoulder when her first boyfriend broke her heart. That person did not exist anymore. She had been replaced by this cold woman who cared more about what her neighbors thought than about her own mother. I walked 3 miles to the neighborhood where Richard lived. My feet had blisters that hurt with every step. I was so hungry that I saw dark spots floating in front of my eyes every time I moved my head. But I kept walking because I needed to finish this test. I needed to know if all my children were the same or if any of them still had kindness in their hearts. Richard's house was more modern than Emily's. All big windows and shiny metal. Clean lines and cold just like him. I rang the doorbell and waited. This time someone answered right away. Richard opened the door fast, like he was expecting a package to be delivered. His face when he saw me was shocked. Real surprise. Mother, he said loudly. And for 1 second I thought maybe he would be different. Maybe he would help me. What happened to you? What is going on? He seemed worried. His eyes looked at my dirty clothes, my greasy, unwashed hair, the torn bag I was holding. He took a step toward me and I thought he was going to hug me. He did not. Instead, he looked quickly to both sides of the street, just like Emily had done. The same worry about what people would think. The same fear that someone would see him with me. Come inside quickly, he said, pulling me in fast and closing the door immediately behind me, like he was hiding proof of a crime. I stayed in the hallway. He did not invite me to come further into his house. He kept his distance from me, like my being poor was some kind of sickness he could catch. "What happened?" he asked again. "Where have you been sleeping? Why did you not call me?" I told him the same story. My business closed, I lost all my money, I had been on the streets, and I needed a place to stay for just a little while. Richard listened with his arms crossed over his chest. I watched his brain working. I saw him thinking hard behind his eyes. But he was not thinking about how to help me. He was thinking about how to make me leave as fast as possible. When I finished talking, he let out a long, tired breath. Like I was a difficult problem at his work and not his mother. "Mother, I have a reputation to protect. I am a lawyer. My clients are important people. Politicians, business owners, rich families. If anyone finds out that my mother is homeless, living on the streets, that will hurt my law practice. You understand that, right?" "No," I told him honestly. "I do not understand." Richard took out his wallet. It was made of expensive leather. I knew it well because I had given it to him for his birthday 3 years ago. Cost $700. He pulled out some money. Just $20. He held it out to me but did not get close. Like he was afraid to touch me. "Take this," he said. "Go find a cheap motel. Take a shower and rest. When you look better we can talk about how to fix your problem. But you cannot stay in this house. I have court tomorrow morning. I need to focus and prepare. I cannot have this kind of distraction right now." Distraction. His homeless mother was a distraction. Just a problem getting in the way of his work. I did not take the money right away. I just stood there staring into his eyes, looking for any tiny piece of the little boy who used to run to me when I came home from work. The little boy who told me that when he grew up, he would buy me a big house so I would never have to work so hard again. That little boy had died somewhere along the way, and I had not even noticed when it happened. "Richard," I said, and my voice was breaking. "I stayed up all night helping you study for your big law school tests. I brought you coffee at 3 in the morning when you had to keep studying. When you could not afford the textbooks that cost $400 each. I sold my jewelry to buy them for you. And now you are giving me $20 and calling me a distraction." He pressed his lips together tight. The money was still held out between us like a wall. "Mother, it is not personal," he said in that professional voice he probably used when giving bad news to clients. "It is just that right now, I am not in a position to help you the way you need help. I have my own family to take care of. My own bills to pay. I simply cannot take on another person to support." Another person. That was what I was to him. Another person. Not his mother. Not the woman who gave up her own dreams to pay for his. Just another person who needed something from him and made his life harder. I took the $20. Not because I needed the money, but because I wanted to see if giving me even that little bit would make him feel anything. Nothing. His face stayed blank, professional, distant. Like he had just finished a business deal he did not enjoy but had to do. "Now I really need you to leave," he said, pointing to the door. "Seriously, Mother, I have to wake up early tomorrow. Cannot be dealing with this tonight. When you get yourself together and fix things, call me and maybe we can talk. But you have to understand that I have limits too." He put his hand on my shoulder. Not with love. With firmness. He was pushing me toward the door. He was pushing me out of his life. When we got to the door, he opened it and pointed for me to go outside. The cold night air hit me again. "Take care of yourself," he said. "And honestly, Mother, you should have been more careful with your business. At your age, you should have everything secure. This should not be happening to you." He was blaming me. Telling me this was my fault. That if I was on the street, it was because I had been careless and stupid. The son whose $200,000 education I paid for was teaching me lessons about money while kicking me out of his house. The door closed. This time I did not hear the lock because Richard had already walked back into his house before I even got to the bottom of his porch steps. He did not stay to watch me walk away safely. He just closed the door and left me there. I stood under the yellow porch light. The $20 was crumpled in my hand. I stared at it like it was poison. This dirty piece of paper was what my relationship with my son was worth now. $20. Less than what he probably spent on lunch any day. I put the money in my pocket. I would keep it. Not to use but to remember that this happened. That this was real. That my two oldest children had rejected me on the same day without even thinking twice about it. 2 doors closed. 2 children lost. I had one more to visit. Marcus, my youngest son. The one who chose to be a librarian when everyone told him he was wasting his intelligence. The one who married Kelly, a girl from a poor family who worked at a grocery store when they met. The one the whole family looked at with pity and a little bit of meanness. I have to tell you something that makes me feel ashamed. I also looked down on them. Not out loud but in my heart. When Marcus brought Kelly home to meet me, I wanted more for him. I wanted a girl from a rich family. I wanted someone with important connections. I wanted someone who would make my son look more successful, not someone who would keep him poor. At family dinners, Emily and Richard made mean comments about them. They said things like, "Too bad Marcus settled for so little." Or, "Imagine if he had married someone with ambition and drive." And I did not defend Marcus or Kelly. I stayed quiet. I let those hurtful words hang in the air without telling them to stop. Kelly always noticed. I could see her smile get smaller every time Emily talked about her expensive trips to other countries. Or when Richard mentioned his wealthy clients. She could feel how Daniel squeezed her hand under the table, trying to give her strength, and I would look away like I did not see anything. Now, walking to their small apartment in a poor neighborhood far from the big houses of my other children, I felt the heavy weight of my own fakeness. I had judged Kelly for not having money. I thought she was not good enough. I saw everything she did not have instead of seeing all the good things about her. And she probably knew how I felt. Probably every time she saw me, she could feel my disappointment. Marcus and Kelly's apartment was in a small building with only 1 floor. The paint was old and peeling off in some spots. There was a tiny yard with flowers that Kelly clearly took care of herself. A wooden fence that needed to be fixed. Everything was simple, humble, and honest. There was no fancy gate. No intercom system. Just a wooden door with a simple doorbell. I pushed the button and heard it ring inside. Heard footsteps. The door opened. Kelly stood in front of me. She was wearing a green sweater she probably made by hand. Her hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail. No makeup on her face. No jewelry except her wedding ring, which was just a thin silver band that probably cost less than $50 when they bought it. Her eyes got very wide when she saw me standing there. "Margaret," she said, using my first name like she always did. She never called me mother-in-law or ma'am. Just Margaret. First that had annoyed me. Seemed rude and disrespectful. Now I understood she was trying to connect with me as equals. "Oh my goodness, what happened to you?" she said right away. And without waiting for me to answer, she took my arm and pulled me inside. The warmth of the apartment wrapped around me like a blanket. It smelled like home-cooked food and freshly baked cookies. Smelled like a real home. "Marcus!" she yelled toward the back of the apartment. "Come here quick. It is your mother." Marcus came out from what looked like their bedroom. He was wearing a simple blue t-shirt and old jeans. When he saw me, his face went through so many emotions at once. Surprise, worry, pain, and something else I did not see on Emily and Richard's faces. Real love. "Mom," he said, running to me. "What happened? Are you hurt? Did someone hurt you? Where have you been?" His hands touched my face gently, checking me over like he was looking for injuries. He did not care that I was dirty. He did not care that I smelled bad. He only cared if I was okay. Kelly had already gone into the apartment. I could hear her moving fast, opening drawers, turning on the hot water for a bath. Marcus guided me to their couch. It was an old brown fabric couch with a patch sewn on one arm where it had torn. I sat down and felt my legs finally give up after so many days of walking. I told them the story again. The business closing, losing all my money, sleeping on the streets for nights. Marcus listened with tears starting to form in his eyes. He did not say anything about his reputation. He did not mention what his neighbors might think. He did not ask how I had let this happen to me. He just listened with an open heart that was breaking for me. When I finished talking, there was a heavy silence in the room. Then Marcus spoke. "You are staying here," he said firmly. "That is not a question, Mom. This is your home now." Kelly came back with clean towels and some clothes. "I heated water for you to take a bath," she said with a gentle, kind smile. "We do not have a bathtub, just a shower, but the water is nice and hot. After you clean up, you will eat something. You look way too thin." "But you do not have space for me," I said weakly, even though my heart was already bursting with feelings I could not name. "You only have one bedroom here." "We will sleep on the couch," Marcus said without even thinking about it. "You take our bed. We are not going to argue about this." "No," I said. "I cannot take your bed. You need your privacy and your own space." Kelly knelt down in front of me. Her brown eyes looked at me with such warmth. Warmth I did not deserve after how I had treated her. "Margaret," she said softly. "You are Marcus's mother. You are family. Family does not sleep on a couch when there is a bed they can use. Please let us do this for you. Please." Those words, "let us do this for you," tore me apart inside. My other children had offered me money and excuses and reasons why they could not help. This couple who barely had anything was offering me everything they had. No conditions. No complaints. I took a bath in their tiny bathroom. The tiles were chipped and old. The shower curtain had a patch on it. But the hot water poured over my dirty skin, and I let myself cry there where no one could see me. I was not crying about the days on the street. I was crying for all the years I had wasted caring about the wrong things. I cried because my two oldest children, who I gave mansions to, had closed their doors on me. And my youngest son, who lived in this tiny apartment, opened his door wide and welcomed me in. When I came out of the bathroom, clean clothes were waiting for me on the bed. They were Kelly's clothes. Soft gray sweatpants and a light brown hoodie. They were a little too big on me because Kelly was taller, but they were clean and smelled like cheap laundry soap and real care. At their small kitchen table, which could barely fit between the living room and the tiny kitchen, a plate of food was waiting for me. Homemade vegetable soup, some toast, a glass of orange juice. Nothing fancy or expensive, but made with love and given with respect. Marcus and Kelly sat with me while I ate. They did not stare at me with pity. They talked about normal, everyday things. Marcus talked about the kids who came to the library. How one little boy had finally learned to read a whole book by himself after months of trying. Kelly talked about the flowers in their little yard, which were starting to grow even though it was still cold outside. They treated me like a regular person, not like a tragedy or a problem. After dinner, while Kelly was washing the dishes, I heard Marcus tell her quietly to come with him to the bedroom. He thought I could not hear them, but the walls in that small apartment were very thin and did not keep secrets. I sat on the couch pretending to watch their old television, but really I was listening to every word they said. "We do not have enough money to feed 3 people, Marcus whispered. "My paycheck barely covers the 2 of us as it is." "I know," Kelly replied. Her voice was calm, not panicked. "I have been thinking about it." There was silence. Then I heard a drawer open. "We can sell our wedding rings," Kelly said. "We do not really need them, do we? They are just symbols. Our marriage does not depend on 2 pieces of metal." My heart stopped beating for a second. They were talking about selling their wedding rings. The only jewelry they owned. The symbols of their promise to each other. For me. "No," Marcus said, but his voice did not sound sure. Sounded torn apart. "Those rings mean something to you." "They mean that we love each other," Kelly replied. "And we will still love each other with or without them. Your mother needs us right now. That matters more than any symbol or ring. Tomorrow morning I will go to the pawn shop," she continued. "They will probably give us around $250 for both rings. With that, we can buy groceries for the month and see what happens after that." $250. That was all their rings would be worth at a pawn shop. and they were ready to give them up without thinking twice. Meanwhile, Emily had $4,000 earrings hanging from her ears and would not let me into her house. Richard carried a $700 wallet and gave me $20 like he was being generous. "I love you so much," I heard Marcus say. His voice sounded broken and emotional. "I do not know what I did to deserve you." "Nothing," Kelly replied with such tenderness. "It is not about deserving anything. It is about choosing to do what is right. Your mother raised you and took care of you. She paid for your education. Now it is our turn to take care of her. That is how real families are supposed to work." I closed my eyes tight. Tears poured down my face like a river. This woman I had looked at with disappointment and judgment. This woman who worked at a grocery store stocking shelves because Marcus's librarian salary was not enough to pay all their bills. This woman I thought was not good enough for my son. She was the only person in the whole world who truly understood what family really means. They came back into the living room. I quickly wiped my tears and pretended to be watching the news on television. Kelly brought me a blanket she had made by hand. It was yellow and soft. "This was my grandmother's blanket," she said as she put it over my legs. "It always kept me warm when I was cold. I hope it keeps you warm too." That night, even though I said no many times, they took me to their bedroom. It was a very small room with just a bed, an old closet, and a dresser with paint peeling off. The sheets were plain white cotton, washed so many times they felt soft as silk. On the small table next to the bed, there was a wedding photo of them. Marcus in a suit that was clearly borrowed from someone else. Kelly in a simple white dress she probably bought at a discount store. Both of them were smiling with happiness so pure and real it almost hurt to look at it. "Please rest and sleep well," Marcus said, kissing my forehead just like I used to kiss his when he was little. "Tomorrow we will figure out what to do next. But tonight just sleep peacefully. You are safe here with us." They left the room and closed the door quietly behind them. I was alone in that room that smelled like cheap lavender air freshener and hope. I lay down in that bed that was the only nice thing this couple owned, and they were giving it to me without any hesitation. Could not sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Emily's face when she slammed the door on me. I saw Richard handing me $20 like I was just some random beggar on the street. And then I saw Kelly kneeling in front of me, calling me family with eyes full of real compassion and care. Around midnight, I heard sounds in the living room. I got up very quietly and opened the door just a crack. I saw Marcus and Kelly trying to get comfortable on their small couch. They did not fit well at all. Marcus was practically hanging off one end. Kelly had her head bent at a strange angle against the back. But their hands were holding each other even while they slept. "I am sorry," whispered Marcus. "I know this is really uncomfortable for you." "I am fine," Kelly whispered back. "Just think about your mom sleeping warm and safe in a real bed. That makes any discomfort worth it for me." They were quiet for a moment. Then Marcus spoke again. "I am sorry I cannot give you more than this. I am sorry you have to live like this in this tiny place. You deserve a big house and nice things and an easier life." Kelly's answer destroyed me completely. "Marcus, I have exactly what I want. Have you? We have our health. We have jobs that pay us. We have a roof over our heads. And now we can help someone who really needs us. That is not a little thing. That is everything. That is everything." Those 3 words had more wisdom in them than all the expensive college degrees I had paid for. This woman with her simple clothes and tiny apartment understood something my rich children had forgotten. Or maybe they never learned it in the first place. Real wealth is not measured in dollars. It is measured in how much you can give when you have almost nothing. I went back to bed and this time I did cry. I cried hard, burying my face in the pillow so they would not hear me. I cried for all the years I spent building my company for children who only cared about money. I cried for judging Kelly so wrongly and so meanly. I cried for almost losing the chance to know what my youngest son's true heart was really like. But I also cried with relief. Relief because in the middle of this painful test, I had found something I thought was lost forever. Proof that real love still existed in the world. That kindness had not died. That not all my children had turned into selfish people who only cared about themselves. The next morning, I woke up to the smell of cheap coffee and toast. I got up and found Kelly in the kitchen making breakfast. She was wearing the same green sweater from the day before. It was probably the only warm sweater she owned for winter. Her hair was in the same simple ponytail. No pretending. No fake appearances. "Good morning," she said with a smile when she saw me. "I hope you slept okay. There is coffee if you want some." She poured me a cup of the cheapest coffee that probably existed, and it tasted wonderful to me. We sat together at the small table. Marcus had already left for work at the library. He had to get there early to open the building and prepare for the day. Kelly looked at me over her coffee cup. There was something in her eyes. A quiet strength and determination. "Margaret, I want you to know that as long as you need to be here, this is your home. It does not matter if it is a month or a year or longer. We are not going to make you leave." Her words were so different from Emily's and Richard's that they almost seemed like a completely different language. "I really appreciate that," I managed to say. "But I cannot take your bedroom forever. That is not fair to you too." "You are not taking it," she said. "We are sharing it. That is what you do when someone is in trouble. You share what you have." She looked directly into my eyes. "I know I was never enough for you," she said with brutal honesty that pierced right through me. "I know you wanted more for Marcus. A wife with money and connections and a college education. I am just a girl who stocks shelves at a grocery store and grows flowers in a tiny yard." "Kelly," I started to say, but she held up her hand to stop me. "It is okay," she continued. "I understand why you felt that way. But I want you to know something important. I love your son more than I have ever loved anything in my entire life. And even if we never have a lot of money, even if we never live in a big fancy house, I am going to make sure he knows every single day that he is loved and valued and respected. And now you too. You are part of that now." Her words broke me completely. The whole wall I had been holding up during these days collapsed like a house made of cards. I started crying right there at that tiny table while drinking cheap coffee from a chipped mug. I cried like I had not cried in many, many years. Kelly stood up and hugged me tight. She did not say anything. She did not try to make me feel better with empty words. She just held me while I fell apart. Her sweater absorbed all my tears and she just let me feel everything I needed to feel. When I could finally speak again, I told her the truth. "You were right. I never thought you were good enough for Marcus. I looked at you and only saw what you did not have. I saw all your limitations. I saw everything you were not instead of seeing everything you are. And I was so completely wrong that I feel deep shame about it." Kelly wiped her eyes and looked at me with those brown eyes full of maturity I did not have, even though I was 63 years old. "People make mistakes," she said simply. "What really matters is what we do after we realize we made a mistake." She took my hands in hers. Her hands were rough from working. Her nails were short and plain with no polish. There was dirt under them from working in the garden. Working hands. Honest hands. Hands that were worth more than all of Emily's perfect manicures. "I want you to know something," I continued. "When all this is over, when I fix my situation, I am going to repay you for everything you have done. I promise you that." She shook her head gently from side to side. "I do not want to be repaid, Margaret. We are not keeping score or adding up points. We are just being family. That is all." That word again. Family. Emily and Richard had used that word as an excuse when they wanted things from me. "You are family," they said when they needed money. "You are our mother," they argued when they wanted something expensive. But when I needed them, that same word disappeared completely from their vocabulary. Kelly used that word differently. For her, family meant responsibility. It meant sacrifice. It meant opening doors instead of slamming them shut. I spent the day helping around their tiny apartment. I insisted on helping. Kelly had to work an afternoon shift at the grocery store, and before she left, she gave me a list of simple things I could do. Fold the laundry, wash the dishes, sweep the floor. Simple tasks I had not done in years because I always paid people to clean my house. There was something deeply humbling but also freeing about scrubbing that small kitchen. My hands, which were used to signing big business contracts worth millions of dollars, were now scrubbing old pots with a worn-out sponge. And with every movement, I felt like I was cleaning something more than just dirty dishes. I was cleaning away years of arrogance and pride. When Marcus came home from the library that afternoon, he found me making dinner. I had used the few ingredients they had in their cupboard to make something simple. Rice with vegetables. Nothing elaborate or fancy, but I had made it with my own 2 hands. "Mom," he said, surprised. "You did not have to do this. You should be resting." "I wanted to," I replied. "It is the very least I can do for you both." The 3 of us ate dinner together. We talked about everyday things that did not seem important but really were. Marcus talked about a girl at the library who had made a huge breakthrough that day. She was struggling to read, and today she read 3 whole pages all by herself. The way Marcus talked about that achievement, with his eyes shining with pride, made me understand something important. My other children measured success in money and status and how much they owned. Marcus measured it in lives he touched, in small daily miracles, in real differences he made in the world. Emily probably did not even know the names of the people who worked in her house cleaning and cooking. Richard saw his clients as cases to win, as sources of income to build his bank account. But Marcus knew the complete stories of the people who came to his library. He knew which kids came without having eaten breakfast. He knew which ones lived in troubled homes. He knew who needed an adult to believe in them and encourage them. And he did it all while earning a salary that barely paid for rent. He did it without complaining, without asking for recognition or praise. He simply did it because he believed it was the right thing to do. That night, after they insisted again that I take their bed, I lay awake staring at the ceiling of that small room. Tomorrow Patricia would come. Tomorrow the truth would be revealed to everyone. Tomorrow, this test I had started with so much anger and determination would finally end. But now, lying in the bed of this couple who had given me everything without asking for anything in return, I felt something different from anger. I felt deep, crushing shame. Shame for doubting Marcus all these years. For comparing him negatively to his siblings. For thinking that choosing to be a librarian was wasting his intelligence and potential. Marcus was the only one of my children who had fulfilled the true purpose of all the education I paid for. The purpose was not to pile up wealth and expensive things. It was to become a better human being, a person who makes the world better. And he was the only one who had achieved that goal. I also felt shame about Kelly. For every time I quietly left her out of family conversations. For every time I mentioned the wives of other successful men. As if pointing out what Marcus could have had instead. For every look of disappointment I did not hide well enough. Kelly had felt every single one of those small cruelties. And yet, when I knocked on her door desperate and broken, she welcomed me with open arms and a warm smile. I heard their voices in the living room. They were still awake, talking quietly. I got up silently and moved closer to the door. Not to spy this time, but because I needed to understand better these 2 people who had shown me more humanity than anyone had in years. "Do you think your mother will be okay?" Kelly asked. Her voice sounded worried and concerned. "I do not know," Marcus replied. "I have never seen her like this before. So lost and vulnerable and broken. Tomorrow before I go to work, I am going early to the pawn shop," Kelly said. "With the money they give us for our rings, we can buy good, healthy food for her. She looks way too thin and weak." They were still talking about selling the rings. They were really going to do it. They were really going to sell the only valuable things they owned. "There is something I do not understand," Marcus said after a pause. "How could my mother, with all her business knowledge and experience, lose everything so quickly? She was brilliant at business. She was so careful with money. It just does not make any sense to me." Kelly took a moment before responding. "Smart people make mistakes too," she said finally. Or maybe she trusted the wrong people with her money. I do not know the answer. What really matters is that she is here now, and we are going to help her get through this. I am scared, Marcus admitted. Scared that I cannot take care of her the way she took care of me when I was growing up. She gave me absolutely everything. Education, opportunities, chances. And all I can offer her is an old couch and simple food. Marcus, Kelly said firmly. You are giving her the only thing that truly matters in life. You are giving her love. That is more valuable than any mansion or any amount of money in a bank account. Not for her, Marcus replied sadly. Her whole life has been about success and money and building her business empire. What must she think of me now, seeing me living in this tiny apartment, unable to give her anything she is used to? Maybe, Kelly said thoughtfully, maybe this is exactly what she needed to see. That success is not measured in square feet or dollars in a bank. It is measured in who stands by you when everything else falls apart and disappears. Her words hung in the air. She was right. Completely and totally right. This test I had created to judge my children was also judging me. It was showing me all the ways I had failed as a mother. All the wrong lessons I had taught them. All the twisted values I had passed on without even realizing it. Emily and Richard were my creation. I had made them into what they were. I had taught them that money solves all problems. That appearances matter more than reality. That success is measured in material possessions and how much you own. And they had learned the lesson perfectly, exactly as I taught it. Only Marcus had resisted. He had chosen a different path despite my subtle disappointment and judgment. He had found in Kelly someone who shared values I had forgotten even existed. And together, they had built something Emily and Richard would never have. A life with real purpose and genuine meaning. I went back to bed with a heavy heart. Tomorrow everything would change. Patricia would arrive with all the documents. With the truth. With proof that I was never actually bankrupt. That this was all theater designed to reveal the true character of my children. And it had revealed much more than I ever expected. Not just about them. About me too. The broken relationships with Emily and Richard would probably never be fully repaired. And my relationship with Marcus and Kelly would transform in ways I still could not completely predict or understand. The only thing I knew for certain was that these two people, sleeping uncomfortably on a couch, willing to sell their wedding rings for a woman who had looked down on them for years, deserved everything I could possibly give them. And tomorrow I would give it to them. 5:43 in the morning. I woke up before the sun came up. The cheap phone Patricia had given me was hidden in the inside pocket of my old dirty coat. I took it out with hands that were shaking. It was 5:30 in the morning. I dialed the number I had memorized. Patricia answered after 2 rings. "Margaret," she said. Her voice sounded sleepy but alert. "Are you all right? Did something bad happen?" "I am fine," I whispered so I would not wake Marcus and Kelly. "It is time. Come at 9 o'clock this morning. Bring all the documents. Bring the security team. Everything exactly as we planned." There was a pause. "Are you absolutely sure?" she asked. "Once we do this, there is no going back. You cannot undo it." "I am sure," I replied. "More sure than I have been about anything in my entire life. I will see you at 9. I hung up and put the phone away. I sat on the bed watching the first light of morning come through the cheap brown curtains. In just a few hours, everything would change completely. The mask would fall off. And I would have to face the consequences of what I had discovered about my children and about myself. I got up and quietly left the bedroom. Marcus and Kelly were still asleep on the couch. They looked so uncomfortable it hurt my heart to see them. Marcus's arm was hanging down to the floor. Kelly's head was at a weird angle against the back of the couch. But even in their sleep, their hands were holding each other tight. I made coffee silently in the kitchen. I found bread and toasted it. I set the table as nicely as I could. Small acts of service. That was all I could offer them in this last moment before the truth exploded into the open. Kelly woke up first. She saw me in the kitchen and smiled with that tired but real smile. "You are up early," she said, stretching carefully so she would not wake Marcus. "I could not sleep well," I admitted. I was thinking about a lot of things. She came over and accepted the cup of coffee I held out to her. Thinking about what? She asked. Curious but not pushy. About you and Marcus, I replied honestly. About what you have done for me. About what you are willing to do. Kelly took a sip of her coffee. Her eyes studied me carefully over the cup. There was something in her look. A quiet intelligence that suggested maybe she knew more than she was letting on. Margaret, she said slowly. Can I ask you something personal? Of course, I replied, though my heart started beating faster. You do not have to answer if you do not want to, she continued. But something does not make sense to me. A woman like you, with your experience and intelligence. How did you lose everything so fast? And why did you come walking to our houses instead of calling for help some other way? Froze. Kelly was looking at me with an expression that was not accusing but was definitely questioning. She was waiting for me to say something. To explain the things that did not add up. Before I could answer, Marcus woke up with a loud groan. His back clearly hurt from sleeping on the couch all night. Good morning, he said, rubbing his neck with his hand. What time is it? Almost 7, Kelly replied, but her eyes stayed on mine. We were just talking about some things. Marcus got up and came over to us. He noticed the tension in the air. Is something wrong? He asked, looking back and forth between Kelly and me. Kelly softened her expression a little. No, nothing is wrong. We were just having a conversation. But I knew she knew. Or at least she suspected something was not right. This woman everyone underestimated, who stocked shelves and grew flowers, had a perception that my children with their expensive educations never developed. I need to tell you both something, I started, but the words got stuck in my throat like they were too big to come out. Marcus put his hand on my shoulder gently. Whatever it is, Mom, we are here for you. You can tell us anything. Kelly spoke again, and what she said shocked me completely. Before you say anything, I want you to know something important. Does not matter. It does not matter what secret you have been keeping. It does not matter what test you might have put us through. We still opened our door for you. We still offered you our bed and our food. And we would do it all over again, exactly the same way. I stared at her with my mouth hanging open. You knew. Finally managed to say. I suspected, she corrected me. From the moment you arrived. The way you talk. Your posture. Small details that did not quite fit together. But I decided it did not matter at all because even if this was some kind of test, the right answer stayed exactly the same. To welcome you in. Take care of you. To love you like family. Marcus looked between us, completely confused. What are you two talking about? What test? Kelly looked at him with such tenderness in her eyes. Your mother is not bankrupt, Marcus. Or at least I do not think she is. I think this whole thing was a test to see how we would react and treat her. Marcus turned to me with his eyes very wide. Is that true? He asked. Is what Kelly is saying true? Tears started running down my face like rivers. Yes, I whispered. It is true. I'm so sorry. I am sorry for lying to you. I expected anger. I expected yelling and shouting. I expected them to tell me to leave their house immediately with righteous anger. But Marcus simply hugged me tight. He wrapped his arms around me while I cried against his chest. Why? He finally asked. Why did you do this to us? Because I needed to know the truth, I replied between sobs. I needed to know who loved me for being their mother and who only saw me as a source of money. And I discovered things that absolutely broke my heart into pieces. I told them everything. About Emily closing the door on me because she was afraid of what her neighbors would say and think. About Richard giving me $20 and pushing me away like I was garbage. About how only the two of them had welcomed me in without any conditions or second thoughts. When I finished talking, Kelly said something I will remember for the rest of my life. Then the test worked exactly as it should have. You discovered the truth about your children. And we discovered something about ourselves, too. What did you discover? Yes. That we would do the right thing even when nobody was watching us, she replied. That our values are real and genuine, not just an act we put on. Marcus added. And we also discovered that you need to heal, Mom. Because a mother who has to test her children's love like this is carrying a lot of pain and hurt inside. He was absolutely right. Completely right. I looked at the clock on the wall. It was 8:20. In 40 minutes, Patricia would arrive with everything. With the documents proving my wealth. With the security team. With all the evidence that would change everything forever. There is something else, I told them. At 9 o'clock this morning, my lawyer is coming here with documents. She is going to reveal who I really am. And there will be consequences for Emily and Richard. Big consequences. What kind of consequences? Marcus asked, looking worried. I am going to rewrite my will, I replied firmly. They closed their doors on me when I needed them most. Now I am going to close my door on them. You and Kelly will inherit everything I own. Marcus stepped back like my words had physically hit him. No, he said immediately and forcefully. You absolutely cannot do that, Mom. They are your children too, no matter what they did. Children who rejected me when I was desperate, I argued back. My voice was hard. Children who cared more about their reputation and comfort than about my well-being. Meanwhile, you and Kelly were willing to sell your wedding rings for me. Kelly stepped in between us. Margaret, I understand your pain and your anger. Really do. But cutting your children out of your will completely will not heal what is broken between you. It will only create more resentment and more division in your family. This is not about revenge, I argued, though deep down inside I knew there was definitely some revenge in my decision. It is about consequences. It is about teaching them that their actions have results. That they cannot treat people like trash and still expect to keep receiving rewards and benefits. Marcus sat down on the couch with his head in his hands. This is way too much, he said quietly. I do not want your money, Mom. I never wanted it. I chose to be a librarian specifically because I wanted something more meaningful in life than just piling up wealth. I know that, I said, sitting down next to him. And that is exactly why you deserve to have it. Because you do not chase after it. Because you understand that money is just a tool to use, not a goal to reach. Because you have values that matter more than bank accounts. Kelly knelt down in front of both of us. Her eyes moved from Marcus to me and back again. Can I suggest something? She asked carefully. Please do, I replied. I desperately need to hear a voice of reason in the middle of all this chaos. Do not do anything permanent today, she said. Let your lawyer come. Let the truth come out into the open. But do not rewrite your will immediately right now. Give yourself time to think. Give Emily and Richard time too. Maybe when they face what they did, when they see the real consequences of their choices, something might change in them. Something might shift. They will not change, I said bitterly. I know them too well. They are who they are. You knew them, Kelly corrected gently. But people can surprise us, both for better and for worse. Give them a chance to surprise you. Let me be wrong about them if I am wrong. Marcus raised his head and looked at me. Mom, if you really want to teach them an important lesson, teach them with your life, not with your death. Show them what real love looks like. Show them what forgiveness looks like. Do not give them more money if you do not want to. That is completely fine. But do not cut them out of your life completely and forever. That will hurt you more than it hurts them. His words hit me deep in my heart. This son of mine, this good man who earned less in 1 year than his siblings spent on their vacations, was giving me lessons in being human that I desperately needed to learn. What do you think I should do then? He asked. Let the lawyer come, Marcus replied. Let Emily and Richard find out this was all a test. Let them feel the full weight of what they did to you. But after that, offer them a chance to make things right. Not money. Relationship. If they want it, they will have to earn it with time and effort. If they do not want it, at least you will know you tried your best. I looked at the clock. 35. 25 minutes left to decide how I would handle the most important moment of this entire test. 25 minutes to decide if I wanted justice or reconciliation. revenge or healing. I will call Patricia, I said finally. I will tell her to come with everything except the will documents. This is going to be a confrontation, not an execution. Kelly smiled at me with relief and warmth. That is a good start. A really good start. I dialed Patricia's number. Change of plans, I told her when she answered. Bring everything to prove my identity, but do not bring the papers about changing my will. This is going to be about confronting them with truth, not destroying them completely. Understood perfectly, she replied. We will be there in exactly 18 minutes. I hung up and looked at Marcus and Kelly sitting together. I do not know if I can ever forgive them, I admitted honestly. I do not know if I can ever look at Emily and Richard the same way I used to. You do not have to know that answer today, Kelly said gently. Forgiveness is not a light switch you just flip on and off. It is a path, sometimes a long and painful path. But it is worth walking down that path. The next 18 minutes passed in tense, heavy silence. We sat together in that small living room. Kelly made more coffee. Marcus changed into clean clothes. I stayed in the borrowed sweatshirt and sweatpants. I wanted Patricia to see me exactly like this. I wanted to remember forever what it felt like to be on this side of wealth and poverty. At exactly 9 o'clock, we heard vehicles pull up and stop outside the apartment building. I looked out the window and saw 2 big black SUVs parked on the street. Patricia got out of the first vehicle with her assistant following behind her. From the second vehicle, 4 men from the security team got out. They were all dressed in formal business suits. The contrast was absurd and almost funny. This humble apartment building in this poor neighborhood suddenly invaded by this huge show of power and money. Neighbors started looking out their windows. Some came out onto their porches to see what was happening. I knocked on the door before they could. Patricia looked at me and for a second did not recognize who I was. Then her eyes went very wide with shock. "My God, Margaret," she whispered. "You look absolutely terrible." "Thank you so much," I replied with dry sarcasm. "Let me introduce you to the only 2 people who cared about how I looked when I showed up at their door." Marcus and Kelly came forward shyly. They were clearly intimidated by all this display of wealth and power. Patricia greeted them with genuine, warm respect. "It is truly an honor to meet you both," she said sincerely. "Margaret has told me so much about you over these past few days. All of it good." "Nothing good, I imagine," Kelly said with a sad smile on her face. "All good," Patricia corrected firmly. "All very, very good." Everyone came inside. The small living room suddenly filled with people. The security men stood there looking uncomfortable. They were clearly out of place in this modest space. Patricia opened her briefcase and took out thick stacks of documents. "These are the account statements for all your companies," she said, showing me official papers. "Everything is still running perfectly and smoothly. The board of directors has been handling all daily operations during your absence, exactly as we agreed. There was no bankruptcy, no losses. It was all manufactured and fake." Marcus looked at the numbers written on the documents. His eyes got wider and wider as he read. "Mom," he whispered in shock. "Are these numbers real? Is this true?" "Completely real," Patricia confirmed. "Your mother is one of the wealthiest women in the entire country, and she pretended to be bankrupt to test her children and see their true hearts." Kelly put her hand over her mouth in shock. "We were ready to sell our wedding rings," she said, her voice barely making any sound. "And you could have bought 1,000 rings without even noticing the expense." "That is exactly why," I replied. "Because you would have sold those rings while my other children would not even let me through their front doors." Patricia took out more documents from her briefcase. "These are the records of calls I made to Emily and Richard early this morning," she said. "I told them there was new, important information about your situation. I asked them to come here to this address at 10 o'clock. Both of them confirmed they would be here." I looked at the clock on the wall. 9:45. In just 15 minutes, my other 2 children would arrive. And they would find something they never, ever expected. They would find the truth. They would find the consequences of all their choices. Marcus looked sick to his stomach. "I do not know if I can be here when they arrive," he said weakly. "I do not know if I can look at their faces when they realize what they did." "You need to be here," I said firmly. "You need to witness this because this is not only about them. This is about you too. It is about proving that your way of living, your way of loving is the right way. It is about showing that you are not the failure they always made you feel like you were." Kelly took his hand tightly. "I will be right here with you," she told him. "No matter what happens, we face it together." The minutes dragged by so slowly. Patricia reviewed all her documents carefully. The security men waited in silence. Marcus and Kelly sat together on their couch with their hands holding each other tight. And I stood by the window, watching the street, waiting to see my other children's expensive cars appear on this poor street. At 5 minutes before 10, Emily arrived. Her white Mercedes looked obscene and out of place on this street full of old, modest cars. She parked and got out wearing huge designer sunglasses and a cream-colored coat that probably cost more than Marcus paid for rent in 3 months. 3 minutes later, Richard arrived. His gray BMW stopped right behind Emily's Mercedes. He got out checking his expensive watch, clearly annoyed and impatient about having to be here. They met on the sidewalk in front of Marcus's apartment building. I watched them talking. Emily pointed at the building with obvious disgust and contempt. Richard shrugged his shoulders like he did not care. Neither of them looked happy to be here at all. They walked together toward the front door. I could hear their voices even before they knocked. "Why would Mom's lawyer want to meet here?" Emily asked with clear disgust in her voice. "At Marcus's apartment of all places. This is completely ridiculous." "I have absolutely no idea," Richard replied. "But let us make this quick. I have an important court appearance at 1 o'clock. They knocked loudly on the door. Marcus looked at me with total panic in his eyes. I nodded at him. He took a deep breath and opened the door. The expression on Emily and Richard's faces when they saw Marcus was barely hidden annoyance. "What are you doing here?" Emily asked rudely, like Marcus was an intruder in his own home. "I live here," Marcus replied. His voice was shaking. "This is my apartment." Emily walked right in without waiting to be invited. Richard followed behind her. Their eyes scanned the small room with disgust they did not even try to hide. They saw Patricia in her expensive suit. They saw the security men standing there. They saw all the documents spread out on the table. And then they saw me standing there. Emily stopped moving completely. "Mother," she said loudly. "What are you doing here?" She turned to Patricia with confusion and anger. "You told us you had information about our mother's situation. You did not say she would actually be here." "Oh, she is definitely here," Patricia said in a tone I had never heard from her before. Cold. Professional. Devastating. Michael looked me up and down slowly. I was still wearing Kelly's borrowed clothes. My hair was still not professionally done. I still looked poor. "Did you get bus money to come all the way here?" He asked in that condescending tone he probably used with people he thought were beneath him. "I did not need money," I replied calmly. "I was already here. I've been here for 3 full days. Ever since I knocked on your doors begging for shelter and you both rejected me." The silence that followed was absolutely complete and total. I watched their brains trying to process the information. I watched the pieces starting to fit together in their minds. "I knocked on your door first, Emily," I continued. "I told you I had lost everything and that I needed a place to sleep for just 1 night. And you slammed your door in my face because you were terrified of what your neighbors and country club friends would say." Emily went pale. All the color drained from her face. "I did not know it was really you," she started to say with panic in her voice. "You looked like a homeless person. I thought it was some kind of trick or scam." "It was me," I said firmly and clearly. "Your mother. Dirty and desperate and begging. And you did not care at all." I turned to look at Richard. "And you handed me $20 like I was an annoying beggar on the street. You told me I was hurting your reputation. That I was a distraction from your important work. Richard opened his mouth but no sound came out at all. His face had changed from arrogant to absolutely horrified. But Marcus and Kelly, I said, pointing to the couple sitting on their couch, opened their door immediately without any hesitation. They gave me their bed, their food, their warmth. They did not ask a single question. They did not worry about what anyone would think. They were willing to sell their wedding rings to get money to help me. Emily finally found her voice. This was a trap, she accused me angrily. You set up a trap to catch us and make us look bad. I gave you a test, I corrected her. A test you both failed spectacularly and completely. Patricia stepped forward. Allow me to clarify something very important about your mother's financial situation. She took the documents and spread them out on the table where everyone could see. Margaret Stone is not bankrupt. She did not lose anything. Her companies are operating with record-breaking profits. Her bank accounts are completely intact and full. Her net worth is currently approximately $103 million. The number hung in the air like a bomb that had just exploded. Emily and Richard stared at the documents, unable to fully process what they were seeing and hearing. This was all fake, Patricia continued. Your mother pretended to lose everything to see how you would react, to see who would love her without her money, to see who would care about her well-being more than their personal image and reputation. Emily collapsed into a chair. Her face was white as paper. Richard stayed standing but looked stiff, like he was frozen in shock. Marcus stood up from the couch. His voice trembled when he spoke. You two have treated me like a complete failure for years. Like choosing to be a librarian was something shameful for this family. Like Kelly was not good enough because she did not have money or a famous name. You looked at me with pity, with contempt and disgust. Emily tried to interrupt, but Marcus raised his hand to stop her. No, it is my turn to speak now. For years, I listened to you make cruel comments. I heard you laugh at my small salary. I heard you compare your houses and cars and fancy lives to mine, like I had failed at something fundamental and important. Tears poured down Marcus's face, but his voice grew stronger and more powerful. And when Mom showed up at my door dirty and scared and desperate, I did not even hesitate for 1 second. 'Cause that is how I was raised. To love without conditions. To help without asking why. And you two had the exact same upbringing. The same parents. The same lessons taught to you. But you chose something completely different. Kelly stood up next to him. Her voice was calm but absolutely firm. You hated me. I know you did. Because I was not good enough for your brother in your eyes. Because I worked at a grocery store and did not have a college education. But when your mother needed help, when both of you rejected her and threw her out, we welcomed her in. And we would do it again exactly the same way. Emily finally had a reaction. She started crying. Not quiet tears. Loud, dramatic sobs. I am so sorry, she screamed out loud. I did not know. I did not realize. If I had known it was really you, Mom. That is precisely the point, I said with a hard voice. You had to think I was a stranger to treat me that terribly. But I am still your mother. And if I had truly been a homeless person, I still deserved more compassion than you showed me. Richard finally found his voice. This is not fair at all. You put us in an impossible position. You tricked us and deceived us. I put you in a position to make a choice, I corrected him. A simple choice. Marcus passed that test without even thinking about it. You both failed. Not because you did not know it was me. You failed because your values are rotten to the core. Patricia cleared her throat to get everyone's attention. Margaret had asked me to bring documents to modify her will. To completely remove Emily and Richard from inheriting anything. To leave everything to Marcus and Kelly. Emily stopped crying instantly. Her eyes went huge with horror and fear. You cannot do that, she said desperately. You cannot cut us out. I can, I replied. And I had every intention of doing exactly that. Had. Richard caught the past tense word immediately. Marcus and Kelly convinced me not to make that decision today, I explained. They told me to give you a chance. That forgiveness is a journey, not a single moment. That people can change if given the opportunity. Thank you, Emily whispered, looking at Marcus with tears streaming down her face. Thank you so much for that. Do not thank me, Marcus said coldly. I would have supported Mom cutting you both out completely. It was Kelly who argued for showing you mercy and giving you another chance. The woman you both despised and looked down on. Emily turned to Kelly with desperation. I am so sorry, she said. I am sorry for how I treated you. I am sorry for everything I said and did. Kelly looked at her for a long, long moment. You do not believe that yet, she said finally. You are just scared of losing your inheritance right now. But when that fear passes, when you are back safe in your mansion living your comfortable life, you will go back to despising me. Because you have not actually changed at all. You are just scared. Kelly's words cut like precision knives. Emily opened her mouth to protest and argue but stopped because deep down she knew it was absolutely true. I turned to face all three of my children. This is what is going to happen now, I said firmly. I am not going to change my will today. But I am also not going to continue being your personal bank that you withdraw from whenever you want. The monthly allowances are completely over. The financial bailouts are done forever. If you want to inherit my money when I die, you will have to earn a real, genuine relationship with me first. What does that mean exactly? Richard asked. It means family therapy, Patricia replied for me. It means real, hard work on rebuilding your relationships. It means demonstrating for years, not just days or weeks, that you have genuinely changed who you are. And if you do not do that work, the will gets completely rewritten and everything goes to Marcus and Kelly. Emily and Richard looked at each other. I could see the calculations forming in their minds even now. They were weighing whether the effort would be worth the eventual payout, whether they could fake being changed for years. And that broke my heart all over again. Because even now, even after everything that had happened, they were still thinking in purely transactional terms. There is something else I need to say, I continued. And this is the most important thing of all. Marcus, Kelly, please come here. They stood up and walked toward me. I took both their hands in mine. You two showed me something I had completely forgotten existed in this world. You showed me genuine love, real sacrifice, values that cannot be bought or sold. And although I am not rewriting my will today, I am going to do something right now, immediately. I looked at Patricia. The package we prepared, I said to her. Bring it here now. Patricia smiled and took a thick envelope out of her briefcase. She handed it to Marcus. Open it, I told him. With hands that were shaking, Marcus opened the envelope. Inside were legal documents and a checkbook. He started reading out loud. Property deed. His eyes went extremely wide. Mom, what is this? What does this mean? It is the legal deed to a house, I explained. A real house with 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, a huge backyard for Kelly to plant all the flowers and vegetables she wants. In a safe, beautiful neighborhood close to the library where you work. I bought it 3 days ago when I knew for certain what you were going to do for me. Marcus stared at the document like he could not believe what he was reading. We cannot accept this, he said. It is way too much. It is too generous. It is not a gift, I clarified. It is recognition. It is my way of saying I saw what you did. That I value your character more than I ever valued your siblings' expensive university degrees. Kelly was crying silently. Tears ran down her face. Margaret, she whispered. We did not pass any test expecting anything in return. We did not want anything from you. I know that, I said, pulling her into a tight hug. That is exactly why you deserve it. 'Cause you expected nothing. Because you would have done it anyway, no matter what. Emily stood up suddenly. Her chair scraped loudly against the floor. This is completely unfair, she screamed. We are your children too. Why do they get a house right now and we get absolutely nothing? I turned to her with icy calm. Because you already have houses. Expensive houses I helped pay for. You have received from me for decades. Money, opportunities, connections. Everything you ever asked for, I gave you. Marcus never asked for a single thing. He worked hard. He struggled. He built a dignified life with his own 2 hands. And when I needed him most, when I was broken and desperate, he was there without hesitation. Richard stepped forward. Then this is punishment. You are punishing us for making one mistake. It was not a mistake, I said with a voice like steel. It was a revelation. A mistake is something you do by accident without meaning to. You both consciously chose to close your doors on me. You chose your comfort and reputation over my well-being and safety. Those were deliberate decisions, not mistakes. And that was where the truth finally settled over all of us. Some choices cannot be undone. Some doors, once closed, can never fully open again.